Okay, so here's the deal. We are having a discussion about American isolationism, and we've had a few drinks. So this is Drunken Dustin history regarding American isolationism. And the point behind this is Trump and foreign policy and how scary that is versus Gary Johnson, who's a libertarian, and his foreign policy regarding isolationism. So forgive us for getting too technical, but what we're talking about, and Dustin, I'd like you to elaborate on this, is in the early 1900s, we had an issue where American isolationism, we decided we didn't want to have any part to do in any other activities. And you brought up a reference to a Japanese-Russian. I don't know what you're talking about, so can you explain what you're talking about?
Okay, so it's a long explanation. People like to think that in the early days, America was always an isolationist country. That's not true. America was always a pragmatic country. The phrase they give about George Washington not wanting to get involved in European affairs, he did say that phrase, and at the time he was correct, but it wasn't about the fact that America shouldn't be involved in the world. It was about America would just basically get their ass kicked if they got involved in European affairs.
Right, because America was still rebuilding. George
Right.
Washington was trying to get his shit together here in America. And it's like, if we get involved in any other foreign shit, it's a bad idea. But things changed, right?
Things changed, right. And so what I went into was I was talking about the progress when we get to the Monroe Doctrine. Where
Wait, first.
I'm out of booze.
Wait, here,
Drink
drink some wine.
Okay.
Just wanted to help. All right, now, you were talking about the Monroe Doctrine.
Yeah, I was talking about how America's the Monroe Doctrine, which is not an isolationist doctrine. Because basically what we said by that time, America had grown enough confidence to tell the major European powers that, you know what, y'all do what the fuck y'all want to do over in Europe, but fucking stay out of our backyard. I mean, basically there was a lot of this going on. And
Okay, so basically, you stay out of my shit,
Right.
I'll stay out of your shit.
Right.
Oh, I got something under my nose.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, but in any way, so that's about the early 1800s. By the late 1800s, we're actually starting to see American developing a larger phrase. I mean, and one of the greatest achievements of America's is a book by Alfred Thayer Mahan called
what is it? Sea Power?
Sea Power and Its Influence on History or something along those lines.
Yeah, and that was back before there was any kind of error.
Yeah, this was back
before we
was
had
even a dream.
Right,
And
so everything was about controlling the sea and being able to control trade across the sea, right?
And of course, and before this, we had the incident where America basically forced open Japanese doors to trade.
Okay.
Commodore Perry, as he was called at the time, basically showed up at a Japanese harbor, and because Japan was the strictest of isolationist countries, so like,
Right.
if you're not us, you're a mongrel, and we don't want to deal with you.
Yeah, those Japanese.
Yeah,
honestly.
Japanese were very racist back in that day.
Yeah.
But basically, he showed up. It's like, so you're going to trade with us? They're like, fuck no, we're not going to trade with you. He's like, well, I have these fleets and these ships, and they're going to start firing if you don't trade with us. I'm like, we'll trade with you.
There you go. So we kind of forced trade with Japan.
And then
in
we
that
actually...
way. Hey, Arya agrees with that.
Yeah. And then we
Good job, Arya.
And I can't say I have the timelines.
He agrees too.
I can't say I have the timelines 100% complete, but about this time, we're also seeing the Meiji Restoration in Japan.
Okay.
Where, Japan tries to modernize. And one of the people leading that was Americans. They actually hired American generals from the post-Civil War area in past
See how interested
to
Arya
come
is?
in and train Japanese soldiers. And, the Japanese...
Hey, was that Tom Cruise movie,
That
Samurai?
was the Tom Cruise movie. And if you study the history, the people that Tom Cruise was supporting was a bit of a dick. He was actually owned slaves. Because, the samurai...
and the movie kind of showed the dick side of things.
Samurais were not good people for the most part. They were plantation owners. They were aristocrats. They were the people that the French started chopping the heads off.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a feudal system that we really don't understand because it was different from European feudalism.
So the bottom line, let me bottom line it for you because I don't want to make this run too long. Is American isolationism is not necessarily a good thing for us, because if we back out and say, okay, we're not going to have anything to do with anything foreign, fuck up everybody else. shit happens kind of like the, what is it called? Holocaust and other mass murders and the genocide that's occurring with ISIS today. Am I right?
What I'm saying is that the classic, and I'll get to your point, because what you're talking about is whether you believe it's a good idea or bad.
Right.
But the classic understanding of American isolationism is a myth. America was never an isolationist country.
We tried in the early. What was the president that Wilson?
Up until Woodrow Wilson. I mean, in the early 1900s, there was a movement for the American isolationism, and occasionally it pops up. You'll see 20 years or so that goes by, and it ebbs and flows. Where Americans are like, we don't need to be the peacekeepers of the world. We don't need to do this.
Yeah, we don't need to do this. We don't need to do that.
And like I said, in the early days, it was from a pragmatic standpoint. It was because we don't have the power to do it. If we do it, it's going to hurt us more than it benefits us.
Right.
But as I was saying in the conversation, we were talking about America's influence in this, and it's generally considered that the turn of the century, between the 1880s to the 1914, the 1920s, America was just this strict isolationist country, and I beg to differ.
Yeah.
Because the greatest example of this is not only were we sending military advisors to Japan, or Japan was just hiring ex-military leaders in the United States. If you look at the Americans' influence, Japan in that time kicked Russia's ass. They fought that book I mentioned earlier by Mahan.
Yeah.
The influence of sea power.
The whole sea power thing, and Japan was able to overcome Russia.
They performed one. Well, we were at this when you started recording. I was explaining. They performed what's called one of the greatest things out there is they modernized their navy to the point where it was past the. And
they did this T section.
I'll tell you, because Russia thought it was modernizing. They had a navy.
I tell you what, you should explain this strategy in the next video.
Yeah.
Let me stop it here and let me summarize it using Loki. Loki, you're going to explain this, okay? So basically, the whole American isolationism myth is not necessarily true. Do your history. Do your research. Bottom line is, Trump saying he's going to, bomb everybody is not necessarily a good thing. Showing that we can bomb everybody is not necessarily a bad thing. Thank you, Loki, for your opinion and your perspective. And the next segment will be about this amazing strategy that Dustin's about to talk about.
This is not necessarily an endorsement of Trump. We're just...
No, we are not endorsing Trump.